Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is so good to see you all. I feel like it's been a minute or two. We missed last week. Michael and I were both terribly ill. We got the crud and it was not fun. We were sick for about 6 to 7 days in bed, and and we were sick together, so how romantic is that? Anyway, it's so good to be back. It's so good to see all of your lovely faces, and I am looking forward to hanging out today. We're gonna make a really cool art piece. I'm very excited about this. This week is my birthday. This weekend is actually my birthday, is on Sunday, and so I decided to make myself something. Does anyone else do that? Am I the only one that makes myself birthday presents? Anyway, so we're gonna make a really cool, fun art installation today to hang in my entryway. We're gonna be working in the wood shop on this because this is gonna be a really cool wooden art piece. I'm excited, so without further ado, let's get started. To get started, we first need to cut some sheets of plywood down, and we are using 1/2-inch maple plywood sheets, and these sheets were pretty big, so I didn't trust myself to attempt this on the table saw because I'm still getting used to using it. Still don't have a lot of confidence, so I asked Michael if he would come in and cut all the sheets of plywood down to size for me. Now that all of our sheets of plywood are cut to size, we're actually going to need 2 pieces of wood for this particular project. And I'm going to be working with some geometric shapes here. So for this piece, we just want a 1/2 circle across the top of that. So Michael worked his mad math skills and figured out all the proper angles for me, and then using his compass drew out the lines for me, because these are going to be my cut lines to create this nice curved edge on one side of this piece of plywood. On this piece, we are going to be cutting a big, giant, round circle out of this. So the first thing that Michael did was use his ruler to find perfect center. And to find center on a square, you just go from corner to corner and then mark a little X in the very center. So this is going to give us our center point, and then Michael will come back in with his compass and draw me a perfect circle. When using a compass to get a perfect circle, you want to set your compass at 1/2 the size of your circle. So we wanted a 25-inch circle, so we set our compass at 12.5, and then when you draw it around, starting at the center point, it's going to give you a 25-inch circumference. And now we get to have some fun. So I'm going to go ahead, and this particular piece right here is going to be the backdrop for our final piece of art. So I'm going to go ahead and use my jigsaw to cut this out, and I am just taking my time here, going really slow so that I can make sure and stay perfectly on my line. At the very beginning of this, I did get a teeny tiny little blunder, but nothing that the sander won't fix. At this point, I realized that I didn't have my board out far enough from the workbench, so I sort of took a little detour here, cut part of it off, slid the board out a little bit more so that I could finish making this cut. And of course, when I did that, it made this teeny tiny little divot in the plywood, but again, nothing the sander can't fix. Now it's time to see if we can't fix some of our flaws. So I'm just coming in with sandpaper and I am using an 80 grit here. And I also wanted to knock off those rough edges on this from using the jigsaw. Plus, I kind of felt like I wanted a slight round over on on all of my edges as well. So I'm using the sander, the hand sander, to do that. So again, I started out with an 80 grit, and then to get the fine sanding, I moved to a 320. All right, the sanding is all done on this piece, so now I'm just going to come in with a tack cloth and clean it all up, get all that excessive sawdust off of it, and then we will be ready to move on to our next step. Because I want this piece to be almost perfectly round, I decided I wasn't going to attempt to cut this perfectly round with the jigsaw. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making a rough cut, and I'm coming in about 1/8 of an inch on the outside of the cut line, making a rough cut, and then I will take this over to the belt the belt sander to fine tune this. Again, I didn't slide this out quite far enough. Well, I needed to have a lot of surface for the clamping to hold this down, so I just am cutting. I cut the first half, and then I flip it over and cut the second half. I have to say, I really love the system that the track system here that Michael put into the workbench, because it does make it so handy and so easy to use all these cute little clamps. And I'm not sure the technical name of these clamps, but I will have them listed in the description box for y'all. Okay, so now I've got it all flipped around. It's clamped tight down again, so I'm going to go ahead and continue cutting this out. I'm going to just continue making my rough cut around this. And again, I'm just coming in about 1/8 of an inch on the outside of my cut line. Most of the time, things go pretty smooth when I'm working in the workshop. However, this time my sandpaper wasn't quite stuck to the belt sander, so I had to stop what I was doing and kind of fix everything. And now we are ready to fine tune our round. So you can see how I've cut just on the outside of my cut line, and then I'm going to use the grinder here. This is the grinder that comes on our belt sander, and I'm going to use this to grind everything down right to the cut line, and this is going to help us get an almost perfect circle. I mean, there's going to be some flaws because I'm hand doing this, but in the end, it gives us an almost perfect circle. This step was probably the most tedious of this entire build. It did take me quite a while to do this, but mostly because I was just taking my time. I wanted to make sure I did this really well and that I didn't, go too far and get any divots. So I really did just take my time to do this step. Okay, so we now have a really nice round circle, and I just want to give this a real good fine sanding. So I'm just going over the entire thing with some 320 grit sandpaper just to make this very silky smooth. All right, so here is my vision for this piece so far. However, I think I want the round piece to stand up just a little bit off of our backing. So I'm going to go ahead and make a small, tiny little frame, and I'm just using my chop saw to do this, cutting down some scrap pieces. And this is also going to have a dual purpose because I want to be able to put some greenery in this and have some greenery stems kind of poking out just a little bit off to the side of this. And this is going to create a vase of sorts. So bear with me, you'll kind of see what I mean in just a little bit. But I'm just checking placement here, and so once I feel happy about the placement, I'm going to go ahead and glue these into place, and it makes it stand up just enough that I can fit some stems in there. I didn't want it to be, off the board too much. I just wanted a tiny little bit of depth in there. So I'm going to come in, use some tight bond wood glue to glue all of these into place, and then I will come back in with a brad nailer to reinforce this and give it just an extra strong hold. Here I am just reinforcing these with some brad nails, and I am just using 1/2 inch brad nails because actually, yes, I think they are 1/2 inch, but I was terrified at first that I was going to go all the way through, but it was enough that I didn't go all the way through. So again, I'm just using some 1/2 inch nails to go through this, and it was the perfect size for giving this just some extra reinforcement to, help reinforce the glue as well. Okay, now it's time to paint. So I am leaving the back part of this in its natural maple wood color, but I want some high contrast here. So I'm going to paint the wood round in some black paint, and I am just using some Valspar black. I'll have the exact color listed in the description box for y'all, but this is a satin paint. I wanted just a tiny bit of sheen to this, not too much, but just a little bit. And this actually, it looks so good in the end. I can't wait for y'all to see what this looks like finished. And of course, I did come in and do 2 full coats of paint on this. I painted the top and all of the edges. I left the underneath raw just so that it would adhere to our top piece a little bit better, because sometimes glue and paint don't play well together. So I left the underneath raw, and all I did was paint 2 coats of paint on the top and the edges. So now we're going to go ahead and do the final assembly on this, and I am using again some wood glue here, but then again, and then I do, after I get this glued into place, I do come back in and reinforce with this with some brad nails. And this part was super, super tricky because I forgot to measure how far in from each edge that I came in with that frame. And so I kind of had to eyeball it and guess it. And y'all, I did a pretty good job. I only had 1 nail that didn't make it all the way through, but thank God it didn't go all the way through to the back, because again, I'm just using some 1/2 inch brad nails here.
Because I used the brad nailer on here, the nails do leave a tiny little divot in the wood, and I wanted this to have a very, very smooth surface on it. So I did come in with some DAP wood filler here and just fill in those nail holes, and then I let that dry really well, came in, sanded off all of the excess, and then gave it another coat, a couple more coats of paint just to cover that up and make sure that it looked, very well done and very finished. I wanted to give it that extra coat of paint to give it that polished, finished look. Now we get to do the final finishing touches. So we're going to add some D hooks to the back of this so that we can hang it. And I always have a piece of art hanging in my entryway, so I already had some screws in the wall, so I just used the tape method so that I could get the exact distance between each of my screws, and that's how I knew where to place our D hooks. So Michael marked where the D hooks were going to go with his little marker thingy, and then we pre-drilled the holes, and to pre-drill the holes to make sure that we didn't go all the way through this, we set the drill bit at just under a 1/2 inch so it wouldn't go all the way through to the front side. Then we just come in and attach the D-rings and it will be ready to hang. Well, we were almost to the finish line, but as we went to attach the D-rings to the board, we realized our screws were just a smidge too long. And of course, I didn't want them poking through to the front, so Michael took them to the grinder and ground down our screws just a little bit. We're at the finish line. All we have to do, the screws have been ground down, so all we have to do is attach the D-rings to the back of this, and then we get to go hang it and add a little bit of greenery stems to it and see how it looks. I am so curious, y'all, because this is definitely different than any project I've ever done. So are you as curious as I am how this is gonna look hanging? Well, here it is. It's finished, it's hung. We've added some greenery stems to it, and y'all, I have to say, I am really loving how this piece turned out.
Oh my gosh, y'all, I am absolutely loving how well this art piece came together. Wow. I think it looks fantastic. It's different from anything I have ever done before. I think my tastes are definitely evolving and I'm shifting away from the modern farmhouse look and going more for that contemporary mid-century modern look. And I'm really loving it. I love how well this piece turned out. When I drew it up, I just wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if it was going to look right or if I was even gonna like it, but I am pleasantly surprised. I love that it added a lot of warmth and just that welcoming feel to the entryway, but it also added some sophistication to that whole space. So I'm happy with how well it turned out. I think my favorite thing about the whole project is first, well, I have two favorite things. First, it was so easy to make. I literally put the whole thing together in one day. So I love a project that comes together so quickly like that. And looking at it, it looks like such a high-end piece, and you would never know that we created that in one day. And I also love that it was so inexpensive to make, because had I gone to a gallery to purchase something like that, it could have been anywhere from $500 to $700, and we created this really amazing art piece for $60. The bulk of that expense was the plywood because we used a maple, but it was so well worth it to me. I love the maple. I love that just natural maple look, and I especially love the high contrast of the black paired with the maple. I just think it looks so pretty. So yes, while it is something very different from what I normally make, I am so happy with how well it turned out. I'm really curious to hear y'all's thoughts on this, so leave me your thoughts down in the comments below, and yeah, let me know what you think. Alrighty, my friends, well, that is going to wrap up our project for today. I am so glad that y'all were here. I'm so glad that you took time out of your day to come spend some time with me. I hope that this gave you some inspiration. If you're looking for something that is different, if you're looking for just, an out of the ordinary art piece idea, hopefully this gave you an idea and a little bit of inspiration. So I'm looking forward to hanging out again next week. I have got so many fun fall crafty projects. We're gonna do some sewing, we're gonna do some crafting. I've just got a lot of really fun ideas coming your way. In fact, I think it'll be fun to give y'all a little sneak peek at some of the projects that we have upcoming. So I thought it would be fun and different to share all of my design ideas with y'all. Anytime I draw a lot. When I am feeling creative, I just sit and sketch out a whole bunch of different ideas. So I'm gonna share a little bit of my sketches with y'all to give you a sneak peek into what's to come over the next few weeks.
I am so excited about all of our upcoming projects. We are going to be dabbling in some fall florals. We're going to be creating some super fun, elegant pieces. We're going to jump into some whimsy, and we're going to play a little bit with some air dry clay. Just have so much fun creating. I'm excited, y'all. I can hardly wait to share all of these pieces with you and all of these fun designs that I have come up with. I think the next few weeks are going to be a blast. We're going to do some sewing. We're going to make some really fun jack-o'-lanterns, and then we'll also have a fun Halloween special with just some cutesy Halloween, because I don't like spooky, but we're going to have fun making some really cute pumpkins.
Okay, well that was fun. I enjoyed sharing some of my sketches with y'all, and now you have a little sneak peek into what we've got up and coming. So y'all come back and see me again next week. Until then, y'all take care, and I will see you soon. Bye.